And we're back, the classic. Another during show episode. It's been a while I didn't realize how much time was flying between episodes, but I'm like, oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And Eli's like nudging me. He's like, we may want to get to that sooner rather than later. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a while since it's probably I've probably already forgotten everything, but we got to do the episode because we promised, and I appreciate it. So Eli, how have you been since Adepticon?
I have been wonderful. I've been having a great time. Adepticon was such a blast. Even just thinking about it, I'm getting excited.
Yeah.
So it
It
was
it
a lot of
was a lot
fun.
of fun. Yeah. So because you traveled up early, so why don't you give us your recap of the whole weekend really quick, just a quick synopsis.
Yeah. I got there early to do some an RPG convention, GaryCon. So I got to run some RPGs and play some RPGs, and that was a blast. And then stayed with some folks in Chicago at they had a gaming loft, like
Mm-hmm.
literally in their shed, a little loft filled with
Ooh,
gaming things, and I got to
wow.
tuck away in there, and so I got to fall asleep between first edition copies of RPGs, and it was
So you
it,
literally had a gaming weekend.
yeah,
Not
it was
just a
pretty
weekend,
nice.
but like a week and a half of gaming.
Yeah, yeah. And it was my ideal. I've always wanted to go to Adepticon because I like the tabletop RPGs so much, but I prioritize those over war games. So, uh, and this time I made it to Adepticon. So I stayed with a couple of our mutual friends in an Airbnb, and
Nice.
it was worthy. It was a nice Airbnb and good people.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah, the only bummer about Adepticon, it was amazing. The only bummer is somehow you and I kept missing like the night outs, you know? So like I showed up Thursday night and I didn't come out Thursday night with you guys because Matt showed up. So I was waiting for Matt to show up late. And so then I went out Friday night, but nobody else really wanted to go out Friday night. So it was kind of a weird thing. And then Saturday night, I think I was not down to go out Saturday night because I think Matt was heading home or something. I can't remember. And so it was just mixed, and then I flew home Sunday, so I just missed everything. But it was still fun to hang out with everybody, and I'll catch up with them again next year.
yeah, I flew out on Monday, which allowed us to go out on Sunday. I wanted to go out on all these days, but I'm too much of a cheapskate, and so I'm not going to pay for an Uber by myself, and so I
Yeah.
just take the rides back to the Airbnb and be
Yep.
sad.
Yeah,
So
completely understandable. And obviously, we hang out all the time anyway, so we'll just catch up here. But no, it was a very fun weekend. Yeah, so like I said, Thursday, the best part of the weekend for me was that Matt came out and hung out with us all weekend. So, and he was gonna play Kill Team, but he just moved. So, and he realized his mistake. And then he didn't tell me, like a typical person, that he needed an army. Otherwise, I would have brought him a Lord of the Rings army so he could have played in the GT because there's plenty of spots.
what a
But
fool!
he didn't tell me, so he shows up. He's like, "Oh, I'll just hang out, I'll just." But then it was worked out good because he's all these people were giving him a bunch of shit. So thank you to everybody who are giving him a bunch of shit. And then he's like, he did start talking about it. He's like, yeah, maybe I should start playing again. And then because of that, Marcus was getting FOMO because he was missing out on everything. And so he started making plans to start playing again. So that was the best part of the weekend for me is that Marcus and Matt started to show a little bit of interest again in the game.
And Marcus came out to a tournament here
He
down in
did.
Portland, so maybe
It
that'll
did.
leverage Matt back in. You can play him
I think
against each
so.
other.
I think so. As long as Marcus doesn't badmouth it too much. But no, it was good. So we had a different room. So we were not in the room we were in the year before. We were actually in the main hall, which was different. Which it was good and bad. So it was good in the sense that lots of people came over and saw Lord of the Rings. It was there's 108 players total in the GT. Lots of people were coming over checking out. So that for that reason, and also we were next to all the other different stands and whatnot, so you could easily jump over, check out different game systems yourself. But the only problem is when you're in the main hall, it's super loud. There's a lot of traffic and stuff like that. But I thought all in all, it was a good thing.
I was actually surprised. I thought it was I didn't think it was as loud as some of these other tournaments that I've been to that are much
Mm.
smaller, but in smaller venues, I feel like are a lot louder. I feel Clash on the Coast is a little bit louder than
That's fair. Yeah, no, you're 100% right on that. I guess I'm just comparing it to the year before where we were just the Lord of the Rings guy. We're in this big room. But you're right. Yeah, I guess compared to like Clash and all the other game systems, yeah, it's yeah. I guess it was a good thing. Yeah, I think it ultimately was a good thing to be in there. The other thing that was nice about it is because Josh was also like there's a whole two extra table rows that we can use. So literally, just he just started throwing terrain and making up boards, and he was able to expand. Literally, he had if he had the players to get 150, he could have. But we hit 108. That's why I was like kicking Matt because if he just told me, I would have brought him an army, and he would have been able to play too. But that's okay.
I really loved it. I think the terrain was pretty decent too.
Yes.
It wasn't like, I mean, sometimes you go to tournaments where the terrain is crazy and really over the top.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't quite that, but it was solid. It was definitely solid,
It was
especially
solid.
for a tournament of that cal like that size. It
Yeah.
was good terrain. So
Because that would be like what, 59 boards or something like that, or 50, yeah, 59 boards. That's no, not that quick. 50, 54, 55 boards or something like that, whatever he had. But um, yeah, it's a lot of boards, but all of them like that's what I do appreciate. You're 100% right. The from table 1 all the way down to table 50 was quality boards. There was not a single board that you were like, "Oh, I'm screwed on this board." In fact, I round 1 of the GT, Richard was next to me on the table next to me, and there's this big river that kind of runs through the entire map, and Richard's just like upset. He's just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and I'm like, Josh said beforehand, all water is open ground. Like it's all just open. Like there, don't worry about it. Like you're not half. It's not a shallow water. And he's like, oh, okay, that does make it better. So there's like terrain still to interact with, but it wasn't like a board that, oh, you're completely screwed on this board, which I liked a lot.
it does always break my heart a little bit to hear TOs say that though. Like,
Yeah,
man, if there's gonna be terrain on the table, I don't care if it screws me over, but
fair enough.
I'd like to use it. So, but I do
Yeah,
get, like I get the
that's
argument
a
for
that's
it
a
against
great point.
it.
That might be a good topic someday for what you want out of a game. We should put a pin in that and come back to that for another episode because I agree with you that there needs to be terrain to interact with. There's too many times where it's just a wide open board, and I don't like that. It's like, oh, like there's almost no skill involved with this because it's just an open board and you're just going to try to use your units against my units. So I do like the sense that of trying to interact, and we'll come back to this, I guess, another time. But I also hate the wall that's right through the middle of the board. You know what I'm talking about, the big fortress wall, where like I
Yep.
cannot interact with this scenario right now because I've got a wall that I can't get through. So there's ups and downs for me about it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a fine line between interaction and non-interaction in either
Mm.
direction. So,
That is an excellent point. Hmm. I think that'd be a great topic for another episode.
4 hours later, all right,
Yes,
Adepticon game one.
exactly. Game 1 of Adepticon. But to keep things on pace, the Masters, since we were both in the Masters, you also did the Masters qualifier. So that happened before Masters. So
Yep.
how did Masters qualifier go? Which brother did you use?
I used Orif or I used Haldir for
Yes.
the first one,
Yes.
and I went 2-1. I lost my first one against Men of the West
Hmm.
in Sites of Power,
Hmm.
and that was a that was a tough one because I think it came down to Haldir and his warband versus Gwahir,
Hmm.
and I got the entire warband surrounding Gwahir. I struck up. Gwahir didn't defend, and I struck uh, under Gwahir, and then
Ugh.
Gwahir murdered Haldir, and then over the course of the game killed that warband. And
Oh
um,
man.
I think my army was outperforming against the rest of his army. like against Aragorn and Legolas, but against like once Gwahir cleaned up that flank, it was kind of over for me because then he, yeah, Gwahir flies over, takes another objective, and then a Men of the West or a warrior minister just scoots over and takes the objective over my pile of dead elves.
Yep.
So
This will be a theme with this event this weekend. Men of the West takes a win. It's a theme with it. Um, so there was your first loss, but your other two wins were good games.
Um, my second game was it was to the death against what did I play? It was against Grand Army of the South,
Hmm.
which was just Amdur, Golden King, and Easterling Army,
Nice.
and that's the exact army I wanted to fight with Lothlorien without Gladriel, and so we just ran into each other and you shut down the Golden King with magic, which I have, and then I've got the fight six pikes too.
Okay.
So uh,
Yeah, your
you
army
beating them,
is
yeah.
built for taking on that army. Like,
Hmm.
doesn't matter if they have the heroes, you transfix them, but you have the writhing vines, you have the fight six pikes, you have the +2 to wound bubble. Yeah, that's awesome.
I can't remember why this game wasn't more of a win because I won 8-1. I think I was just early in the tournament,
Hmm.
but I don't think I was able to just put wounds onto the Golden King. I think that was the issue. I don't
Hmm.
think I could beat him I kept transfixing him to stop him, but then I couldn't get in and actually kill him.
Hmm.
So
Interesting. Yeah, because I remember we talked about that a little bit before about your army. Is it's got a lot of tools, but the to hit that big thing. So that's interesting. I'm curious to see how that plays out through that the whole weekend for you. So we roll into what next?
and then game three I played
Yes.
what is oh, shoot, Road to Rivendell
Mm.
with Caleb's Road to Rivendell.
Ooh, was
And
it nasty?
um
Was it the Tom Bombadil, Goldberry?
it did. Yeah, it was Tom Bombadil, Gatekeeper of Bree, Frodo, Arwen, Aragorn, Gildor, some Lothlorien warriors. Uh,
Yeah.
but it was Convergence.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Ooh, that's actually a
And
good choice for you.
yeah, the thing is I've trained because we've got Dario who
Yeah.
plays Road to Rivendell, and I've played almost this exact same match, but with my Black Gate against Road to Rivendell. Um, and I think Dario just knows how to pilot it just a little bit better because
Mm.
definitely at one point Dario had four of the objectives and I had none.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and so I can't, yeah, I'm really I remember more from about the game with Dario than this game against Caleb at the moment, but I do remember being able to just pick off all his elves that did
Mm.
end up picking up the objective. I think I got a really clutch transfix onto like Arwen ran up and then lost a move off, and
Mm.
I caught up with her and kind of chased her away from the middle.
Ah.
Oh, now it's all coming back to me. He maybe had one of the worst openings because he marched with these 8-inch move elves, and then it
Yes.
also gave them the speed bonus
Oh,
um,
from Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil. So his guys were moving like 20 inches or something like that,
Oh, jeez.
but it's for the entire phase. And so I got a sentinel that ran up and uh, got off a taunt on one of these Lothlorien warriors who's got worse intelligence. And then, so this, in one turn, I think this Lothlorien warrior traveled like 18 or almost 40. It was the most insane movement we've ever seen. And so, like, turn two, or even turn one, I just picked up an objective from that Lothlorien warrior's dead body.
Oh,
Um,
that's sick.
it was
That's a
very exciting.
that's a
Um,
pretty clutch move that backfired on him right away.
And another, it's all coming back to me, said the blind man as he peed into the wind. Um, I'm pretty sure at this tournament, th- the whole army of Road to Rivendell was treated as one warband, including
Oh,
Gildor.
oh,
And so
okay.
when we played Convergence, I got to deploy in two corners, but the entirety of his
Oh,
army was in one. And I think that's really what did it
mm.
as well, because I had priority access
So
to the
he couldn't actually get to the other side, the other
yeah.
convergence objectives.
Hmm.
Right on. Well, clutch. I always find how interesting it is when you haven't played an army before and you're like, okay, I kind of get the basic idea. I've read about this, but once you see it on the table, you're like, wow. But that also just means it's so helpful when you have played that army before that has all these niche rules and tricks, and you're like, yeah, I kind of know what you're trying to do, so I'm gonna just stop that from happening. So thanks to Dario,
Yeah, thanks to
we kind of
Dario. I got
knew
a
what was coming there.
good win here.
Nice.
I I'm interested to see. I have heard, well, at least from going to the Portland event, um, you get the extra movement
Yes.
from marching, for the entire phase. But a question that might need clarification, I might look up later, is do you have to still like when a hero marches, you have to stay within 6 inches of the hero that marched?
Yeah.
Would that still apply on the Sentinels movement or on a compel or
I
whatnot?
need
Like,
I need to look it up because I thought they finally fixed that in this edition. That it's now you don't when you march or drum, you don't get it for the entire phase or the entire turn anymore. You only get it for that phase. I
you you
thought they fixed that.
you still get it for the whole phase, but the phase encompasses both persons'
Oh yes. Okay,
movements
so I see what you're saying. Sentinel afterwards
or a compel.
or
Um,
compel. Do they have to? My instinct says no, but actually I don't know the rules is written.
yeah,
I bet you
yeah,
the intent is that no, it's just for the what you're wanting to do. But if your opponents can take in control, obviously they don't have their own mind to stick with their hero. But I don't know. That's an interesting trick. Um,
yeah.
that is very interesting. Yeah, I'd like to dive into that a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, the last chance qualifier was nice. I
Nice.
feel like for the Haldir question, I feel like Haldir, like he had more might than a captain, which
Mm,
was phenomenal. I felt like he had more uses in that sense because he had one extra might, and I think the situation against Guahir with Haldir is kind of 6 one way, half dozen another.
hmm
Um, I think you have slightly better odds like fractionally if you by striking up to beat Guahir rather than using the forcing Guahir to reroll a six.
Yeah,
Um,
because
because I
he
think
still has might anyways.
he still has might anyway, and especially if you're fighting a fresh Guahir on 3/4 dice with a reroll, the odds of
Yeah,
them rolling even a 4 high and then spending 2 might to kill your hero
yeah,
is pretty high. So.
yeah. Fair enough. I guess yeah, you're just wanting the no mic Guy here, but a fresh Guy here is still yeah. I bet you Haldir is still better.
And I think even just like having that extra might, I think is actually going to make Haldir my favorite brother.
Hmm.
So
Mike
the
Point is pretty clutch, and yeah, I think I ragged on him too hard. A lot of people gave me a lot of hate for it. Like, why all the hate? And it's like I think it's again, it's from last edition. It's
yeah,
everybody. It's my hate for him is last edition. This edition, I completely see his utility, and three might. And I don't really care about the strike is nice, but yeah, three
yeah,
might. But the two shots with sharpshooter it's good. It's good utility. That is good utility. So he has a place. He has a role. Each that's what I think is so cool about the design of this edition. Each brother does have a very specific role that they fit into for your playstyle.
yeah.
Very cool.
I think it's
All right.
especially
So
for this list because I think if you have the mirror, then having two fate on Rumil becomes a
yeah,
lot more appealing.
yeah,
So
that's a good point. Yeah, the extra fate. Yeah, that's good.
all
So
right,
rolling into
Masters.
Masters, we the day arrived. We started throwing down. Um, I'll go over my game really quick. My first
Yeah.
game in the Masters, here, let me pull up. So my first game in the Masters was versus Daniel. And Daniel was actually the guy who won the last chance qualifier ticket um, from the day before. So he was running Minas Morgul. And I remember this game. We were playing Treasure Hoard. It was a very, very close game, very tight. We were both playing with very, very precise measurements. He had the typical Witch King on Fellbeast. I think he had the spare Ring Wraith, the secondary Ring Wraith
Yeah.
with Orc
I've
Captain.
I've got his list up here. Looks
Oh,
like he's got, yeah, the Witch King on Fellbeast with Morgul Blade, Ringwraith B, two Mordor captains with identical warbands, two specters, two
mhm.
banners,
Yep.
bunch of orcs. I noticed he
So
doesn't have a drummer.
he does not have the drummer. So that was the difference between him and Jordan. Um, but yeah, he Daniel did not have the drummer, which might have actually played off pretty good in Treasure Hoard because he marched, but that march restriction kept a lot of his guys. So I actually beat him because I had the drum with the Easterlings. I actually beat him to one of his treasure hoards on his corner. So
What?
he grabbed two. I grabbed all three of mine, and I beat him to his third with Dragon Knight and my drummer. Just ran all the way across in through a building and grabbed his. So I was holding four of the treasures and there was kind of a back and forth game. He has the Morgul blades, or not Morgul blades, the blades of the dead with his
Yeah.
orcs. So he was killing me, but I was also killing him. It was very back and forth. I was basically just like, okay, everybody give their. I didn't want to give the objectives to the Emperor. So basically, I gave it to, I believe, Brorgear or one of my guys, and we just kind of like everybody like just bodied everything out. So Brorgear, I think, was holding three of the treasures. And then my Dragon Knight was inside of a building where his Fell Beast couldn't get to me on the far side with a couple of got black dragons bodying him out. And he was trying to decide because he knew he had to get one of the treasure hoards back. So he ended up flying back out towards my Dragon Knight and he was able to do a couple of turns, but he was able to get the compel out to make my Dragonite get out of the building. And then he killed it, got the relic back. But I remember the final score ended up being 13-2 to me because he did get that treasure back. But I was able on the last turn when he got his treasure back from my Dragonite, I was able to dismount the Emperor, combat into his orc captain who had two of his treasures. So
Oh.
on that last turn, so I got um, five treasures and he got one. And then I think I did end up breaking him without being broken. So that's kind of how that score went for there. So good round one for Masters for me.
It went a little differently for me. I
Mm,
played Scott Kirsch
mm,
in Seize the Prizes,
mm,
and he had Ugluk Scouts.
mm,
And I wasn't I wasn't terribly um I wasn't terribly too worried
mm,
into Ugluk Scouts. They've got more bodies than me, but I figured with Seize the Prize, well, I figured with Seize the Prize, if I went for two of the prizes, I could solidly beat him out and get two of the prizes. But with his 8-inch moves, they would just get the other prize off the board. And then it would kind of be if he broke me or not, which could very well happen. So I could kind of like lie on if one of us breaks. And I figured it was Masters, and I had to swing big, so I tried to compete on all three objectives. And I've got two Sentinels, I've got a couple spells. I figured he would get on
mm.
these objectives first, and then I could move him off of it, get these guys to charge me and out of position, and then steal the prizes. And unfortunately, all of his Urukai and orcs were very well read and resisted
No,
all
no.
of they resisted all of my temptations in my pan flute playing
No
my
matter how
sentinels.
good the jazz flute was, they were like, I don't know.
No, so it it a little bit crumbled in that he ended up getting two of the objectives, and I just couldn't fight through, or none of my tricks were tricking. So
Mm,
it just ended up being an 8-3, which I believe is just having a couple. He has both of his prizes on my half, and then I had one on his, and
hmm.
maybe he got a wound on Kelborn.
Ooh, that is pretty good for him.
Yeah. So it
That
was
is
it
pretty
was a
good.
tough one, but tough matchup and tough mission.
It's
But
a tough matchup. I liked how your ideas of the counters, because you have I agree with you. You have the writhing vines if you can get Celeborn up. You have the transfix if you really need to, but you have the two sentinels, and I would be banking on the fact that an 8+, even an Uruk-hai, I think Uruk-hai are still 8+, but even if they're
they're
seven
7 up.
plus, they're
Yeah.
7+. So
Mhm.
even that still is 50-50, and then if one passes, you throw a transfix on top of it. So man, that's
A-
tough.
and this is the one, and yeah, I'm using Orphan for this, and this is the one where I really would like to have Haldir, just because
Mm,
for having more might on the board.
mm.
Because he's got 4 or 5 heroes compared to my 3, and so he just has a lot more might spread out.
Oh,
One,
okay.
two, three, four. Yeah, he's got 5. One's a shaman, but still five heroes with might. Um, and Orphan just doesn't kill enough.
Hmm.
So
Well,
yeah,
that's another notch for Haldir, I guess. We'll keep the tally
if
going.
if Orphan got free heroic combats of some variety, you know, similar to like a Thranduil. All
Yeah.
right, that's a shame.
I also have to keep tally too, because I have to be honest. Throughout this weekend, it was a debate between me and Matt Iverson. So both of us took Host of the Dragon Emperor. We were the only two Host of the Dragon Emperors for both the Masters and the GT. He took Rutabi with less bodies and less cav. I took the Dragon Knight with more bodies and more cav. So it was kind of like a competition to see. I will say in game one so far, it would have been better to have Rutabi than the Dragon Knight because the Dragon Knight kind of just instantly died to the Witch King, whereas Rutabi would have put up a little bit more of a fight. She has will to resist spells, where the Dragon Knight didn't, that compel, and also just fight because it was a compel out, which means it's not transfix, which means I could have struck, I could have done other things. So that was a notch for Rutabi for me as well in that game one.
And you don't. There's that chance you don't get knocked over, right? Her unyielding
Yep.
combat stance, which
Uh,
maybe keeps her
the
alive.
Dragon Knight has that too, I think.
Ooh,
I may have forgotten about that. It didn't matter. He's two wounds, no fate, so it
yeah.
doesn't really matter. It's he's gonna die if he loses a fight, he dies. So but yeah, you just reminded me on that too. But yes, in yielding combat sense, excellent. Ironically, I always remember it on all my acolytes because they also have it. So they always charge a cav into the acolyte and then they win the fight and I remain standing. Kind of helps them survive a little bit more. But so, anyways, game two of the Masters was very identical. I played also Minas Morgul. This was Jordan's Minas Morgul. And the difference was he had basically the same build, except he did have the drum in this one. But although I don't think it really mattered because we vetoed into Contest of Champions, uh, which I didn't really want Contest of Champions, but I was okay with it because I thought my Emperor would do okay, even though there's magic and stuff like that coming at me. I was very wrong. Um, so basically, how the game went, I had to stop. I started shielding like halfway through the game. The game was streamed. If anybody wants to watch it, they streamed it. Um, I started shielding with all my army because I was going to quarter him too fast. I was just my army was decimating it. But it's Contest of Champions. The army doesn't matter. It's my emperor. My emperor did not. I think he resisted one spell, which then the second transfix came over top. And the nail in the coffin, so he was up 4 kills to 0 towards the end of the game with his Witch King. The nail in the coffin was I was finally able, I broke my Emperor around. He was within charging range of the Witch King. with I think I had 2 points of might, one on my Dragon Knight and one on the Emperor. So I would have been able to call a heroic move, and if I won that, I would have been able to charge, maybe even heroic strength, something like that. I was ready to pop the Witch King, get my first kill, get the VPs for that, and then there was enough time to keep shielding with everybody else and get a couple more kills with the Emperor. But the nail in the coffin was the Emperor moved over and he put a specter behind him and fell lighted him. And I'm like, well, I'm a 4+ intelligence, and I rolled
No.
Snake Eyes, and even my point of might, which I had, wasn't able enough to might it up to pass the intelligence. So I had to move away from the Witch King, and that was game once that happened. So I lost that game. Final score was 12-4 because I broke him without being broken. And I can't remember how I got my other VP, but it was all about the fact that he tripled me. That was his 12 VPs. He tripled me in my kill count for leaders.
I also played Contest of Champion, as a matter of fact. I played against Ted Cantu
Mm,
and his
Fields of
uh,
Celebrant.
Fields of Celebrant. Yep. Which was Fields of Celebrant, a King of Men, and a Rohan Captain, which
And
I
all
was
mounted. All mounted.
all mounted. Or well, the King of Men has some foot,
Oh, he
some
did.
Citadel Guard. Yeah, he had some.
Okay.
I didn't mind Contest of Champions because we played on this board that had like right about at the 50, there were, or at the 24-inch line, there were two buildings like
Hmm.
almost perpendicular to it. So I'm playing like an elite, fighting a gap army. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm just going to be able to like stand here with my pike wall and just murder. And it kind of worked, but Contest of Champion also has that new like 50-50 role where you don't get to deploy all the way up to the board, the halfway mark, and just at
Mm.
the 12. And so my captain was deployed back. I didn't think it was going to be a huge issue. We pretty much basically just both deployed and then fought each other. Um, he got the first turn, so I threw a Writhing Vines out to try to like cancel some of his movement. And on turn one, I think Orphan, or I chose Orphan as my champion.
Yeah.
And on turn two, I got two kills with Orphan, and I think he only got one, or
Mm.
maybe he didn't even kill the guy. It was I was up. I had two kills. That's all that was important, and he did not. But the rest of my line kind of just either whiffed or got killed. I was actually surprised by how little I was pushing back. Um, and we did that twice. And on turn three was kind of the major pivotal moment. Um, I was up in kills 2-1 against uh what's uh what's the leader of Fields of
Earl.
Calibrant?
Earl the
Earl.
Young.
Earl the Young.
It's
Um,
Aol, but I've always called him Earl since I
Aoral.
was a kid.
Um, well, this that young chap of a Rohirrim
Yep.
leader, uh, like Orphan was a little bit away from my lines, like just a little bit overextended, and he won the priority. And I was looking at it and I was like, Orphan's overextended,
Mm.
but if I call a move, I don't really want to burn his might because I might need it to win a fight against one of these guys, or I really want to use it for combats. My captain hadn't quite caught up and wasn't in range yet, and I was like, you know what? I'm probably going to be like, he charges me first. I can probably get a good counter charge and set up some like a heroic combat to free Orphan. And unfortunately, this guy's in the Masters. He's pretty good. And I didn't really get that opportunity. I was able to push back a little bit, but there wasn't a good enough opening to like break through and combat around. So the best thing I could do was transfix Earl so that he couldn't kill Orphan himself and get the extra bonus point for that. Um, and so he gets that off. He gets these kills, and it was a shockingly close game because we played, I think, five, six rounds, and all the way up into the end, like until the last kill, like they were like going into the last combat with Earl against two elves. We were tied in kill count 2-2.
Mm.
And if I would have won that fight, so it was very well played by Ted. I probably should have um, called a move a little earlier, but I always feel like against Cav armies, it always comes down to a move at some point,
Yeah.
and I did end up losing that move off later. Oh,
Uh,
so yeah, but it
yeah.
was
It
very well played.
very well could have
Yeah,
lost the move off then too had you called it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good
But and
game.
Ted's a
Almost had
very
it.
good player. Ted's a very
Yeah.
good player. He takes a lot of tournaments over on the East Coast. And I lost to him at LVO, so yeah, he's a very good player.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, like this is one of those games where I walk away going like, yeah, good
Hmm.
game. Like,
Uh,
could have done a couple things here, but I didn't feel devastated or,
nice.
um, but so
Right on.
yeah. But yeah,
Well,
two
perfect.
losses. Pretty
Yeah.
sad.
Ugh. Yeah, that's a rough start, but only uphill from there. Uh,
Well,
So round three, I was a little disappointed because I took the loss in contest two. Round three, I got matched up against Alisher, and Alisher, we've known each other for a while. We hung out many a time, been at different events. We were this close to each other at Nova one year in scoring. And it was good to hang out with him again and banter. He was doing his Shire list, which obviously,
Shire at a Masters?
yeah,
Who would
Shire.
do that?
Who would do that? Who would do that? I don't know. Just the most despicable people, I guess. So obviously, because I played Shire in our 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 league masters, I kind of knew what it was good at, what to avoid. And I never the entire game, I never gave him one flower pot reroll. I will say that. So
Nice.
not one. I because I know how important that is. It was what's the I think it was Convergence. Because it was the one.
For objectives you pick up and carry to the middle
No,
that can
no, sorry. It
transfix
was
you.
just divide and conquer. We had already done the pool with Convergence. It was divide and conquer. So it was still split warbands. But there was three objectives in the middle. So I already knew the only way I'm going to win this game is if I block him out from the middle with his main horde and then last second pull back towards the middle objectives to take over his second horde. And honestly, I will say this is my first time actually ever playing Alisher. I couldn't believe it. Like we've danced around each other many a year, but this was actually the first game we ever played. So I deployed Emperor and the drum and Borgir on one side, my Dragon Knight and his six dudes on the other side. And basically we just sprinted towards the middle. I tried to eliminate his shooting. It was a Dol Guldur board. So there was a lot of Dol Guldur ruins. And there was a point where I got to the middle well before anybody else, and he started creeping up with both sides on his sides to shooting. I was like, okay, this is the time. So I sprinted out and met his main horde with Gandalf, with Rosie, and a bunch of other, most of his guys out there, the sheriffs. He had the mayor, I think, because he had sheriffs and whatnot. And I was like, okay, this is where I've got to just hit it as hard as I can and hopefully crack through because I have the higher fight, the more dice, the banner rerolls. And I will say it went pretty well for me. I won a lot of fights, and even the fights he won, he wasn't killing. And I was just murdering hobbits left and right. My emperor, I kept purposefully because I knew him and the drummer were like the key to victory. So I kept the emperor near the left side for me, plus the drummer outside of range from anything he can touch, so that I'm ready for a last turn drum back to the middle with the Emperor. Um, so everything went well. I even got into Gandalf's cart a few times. My Dragon Knight started chopping through things. Borgir. I wasted a couple of tremors. The tremors weren't actually worth it because I think I killed two hobbits with two tremors. Like
Mm.
they didn't do that much. So maybe it would have been better to spend his will on something else. I don't know. It was kind of it sucks because you're like, oh yeah, I'm hitting four guys, but they're only 4 point hobbits, so it doesn't really seem like much. But I will say I broke him, and I think I
Oh, you
might
did?
have been the only player that weekend to break him. I could be wrong. I'm not sure, but I did break him. And he's had his second horde start reaching the middle. He had the far left objective to himself easy. There was no way I was going to contest that. I actually still had the right side objective, but he had the middle. So it started getting back towards the end of the game. I did hear a combat with the Emperor, start running back towards the middle. I actually dismounted the Emperor then because I just wanted more bodies ready to start turning to charge because you can't charge with the guys with the palanquin the turn you dismount. So it's better
Oh.
to dismount before you need them to charge. So I dismounted them outside 6 inches from the middle objective, and all those archers lined back and shot all six of them off. It was like he had
What?
6 kills without the flower pot rerolls, and I'm like, yeah, well, okay.
All
So
right.
all of a sudden it was just the Dragon Emperor by himself, and I'm like, well, that kind of sucks because I think I'm gonna potentially lose the game now, even though I felt pretty good about it. It goes into last turn, but we didn't know because we're rolling to see if the game ends. So we go into the first turn, we roll to see if the game ends because I just broken him. I charge the Emperor. Emperor is now in the center objective, easily killing a couple of hobbits, but he's got a lot of work to do. I start bringing back a bunch of other guys. They're one turn away from the middle objective now. We roll to see if the game ends. I bodied out Gandalf. I've killed Rosie. I've killed Farmer Maggot. I've killed like all his other hobbits on that side. It's just basically Gandalf and a few hobbits on that side. We rolled to see if the game ends, and it did on the first turn. If it had gone on, like I said, I had a bunch of guys ready to swarm the middle objectives and start contesting his other side objective. But it was a fun game, very fun game. It ended up being a tie because even though he outnumbered me on the middle objective because it was just the Emperor, the fact that my leader was inside the center objective scored me extra VP. So that one ended up being a tie game instead of a no win for either player, which I think is pretty fitting for us, me and Alisher. But ended up being a 7-7 tie. So it was a fun game.
Ah.
But I was sitting there like, of course it ended on the first turn it rolled. I was like, well, that's okay. But neither of us were gonna win Masters. It was more for like I beat Alisher kind of a thing. But we tied, so fitting. It worked out good. And he's a great opponent. He's so much fun. It's fun because a lot of people take it seriously, but if you just keep poking at them, then they start loosening up and they start having fun with you, and that's how Alisher is. And he started laughing and started throwing shade back at me. And anytime I can get somebody to throw shit back at me, I feel like I've won. Just I don't care about the game anymore. I felt like okay, good. We're starting to cuss at each other. This is good.
A moral victory for game
Yes,
three.
yes.
That's good. I played against Tim Little
Ooh,
and his Shadows of Angmar.
yes.
Um, he was a very fun chap.
Hmm.
We played in kind of a like a maybe it was the ruins of Angmar, but it was a very ruined board with Escort the Wounded.
Okay.
And um, this one, it we both kind of moved up with our wounded, and I did a big ol' I sent a couple elves to the left to stop maybe his left wounded, and then I kind of shifted everything. He basically, I guess what's more important is he had this enormous ruin in kind of the very center of his half, which kind of blocked like it blocked his middle wounded warrior from going straight forward, and he had
Mm,
to commit early to go left or right.
mm,
So he committed to my left, or to his left, my right. And so I decided, well, I might be able to commit the same way and maybe stop him and sneak out the right. So basically, most of our forces went in this rightward direction with a very trivial force off to the left. Um, and it almost worked out for me. I managed to get my elves like all scooted over to the right and kind of block off his forward approach, but with Gullivar failing a terror test,
Mm.
I had like a couple sentinels strumming and causing auras of terror, and
Oh, brilliant.
so he failed a courage test, and that gave me quite a big opening to really like dash as fast as I could. Unfortunately, the next turn I left a little bit too big of a gap, and Gullivar was able to jump and eat Celeborn,
Ooh.
and then go after some of my wounded warriors. And with all of that, we ended 9-11. So I lost by 2 points.
Ooh.
And the real thing that I think cost it at the very end was I forgot how they changed escort the wounded for how you could
Oh,
contest it.
yes.
And he had one of his wounded models. I could have just moved a spear support about a couple millimeters over and tagged the objective that he had with one of his orcs, and then that would have shut down his wounded. So
Ah,
yeah, you'll live and you'll learn.
these are
So
such good things to learn though about that scenario because I didn't even realize that too either.
well, yeah, I thought it was going into it, I was like, I thought I remember reading something about, I think it was something with dominant, and then going to the last turn, I was like, oh, I should look that up, and I did not.
Oof.
And then it's all right at this point. Two losses
Yeah.
in, I'm wearing a cow suit. I'm not having a bad time. So,
The legendary cow suit.
however, my game four opponent, after three losses, was not quite so happy to be on three losses at the
Oh,
bottom table. But that's all right.
we'll just go
Yeah.
ahead, run right into that one.
Yeah, well, to start off, to not only is he unhappy, this chap's drinking a beer, and he doesn't offer one. The
Oh,
insult. Yeah,
but
yeah.
the audacity.
The audacity. Um, we played Breakthrough, and he was playing Return of the King. So
Mm.
Leggy, Strider, King of the Dead. Um, and we played it very we were both like, you know what, it's game four, let's basically just deploy right up to the 50 and let's just fight. um and it was a tough scrap. I felt like I was just only barely, even with my +1 to wound, I just wasn't quite cracking those D8 ghosts, because
Mm.
it's when it turns to 5 by 3s and then 4s by 2s
4s by 2s.
if you're two-handing with Celeborn. Um, and I couldn't I couldn't stop I couldn't stop Strider, but
Mm.
Strider also wasn't popping off. Like
Mm.
Strider would win his combat and maybe kill one guy or something. So and he was kind of really disrupting the middle of my line. Um, and we really kind of fought in kind of like he was kind of in an L shape around the
Oh,
right
okay.
breakthrough objective, and I had my back objective, and I was kind of like had a scattering of elves trying to push forward and get to the last like to push towards the back objective. And that's what finally, like, that's kind of what really tipped the scale for me, is I managed to get one knight who ran back and got on on his objective. um, and then I think I had one of the side objectives. But those like I was winning around the very center of where our battle line was happening,
Mm,
but on all the flanks where I needed to have objective control, he would have like one or two ghosts fighting one elf and
mm,
or one or two elves, and the those elves were the ones that couldn't convert a kill.
mm.
Um,
And even
so
Orphan wasn't converting for you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that's why I really am not liking Orphan is he's only strength 4 and he's only got the 2 might and he's got a bunch of attacks, but especially against ghosts who are D8, unless you're rolling that 6, um, even if you get the 6 and you have 6 dice to strike, maybe you get a kill.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah,
Whereas
it was
Haldir
just
can two hand at least.
yeah, Haldir can two hand, at least. So,
Hmm.
um, which then gives you fives.
Yeah,
So
a little bit better. Interesting.
yeah, this one was a just a nice little a battle line. I managed to sneak a couple elves around. Yeah,
What
yeah.
did the final score end up being? Do you remember?
6-3, six
Okay,
to three
six
in
three.
in my favor.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I just had more bodies than him, and we're playing an objective mission,
Yeah,
and um, yeah, I couldn't break him. I don't think he didn't get anywhere near breaking me.
right.
Um, it just I had bodies on the objectives and that ended it. So
Very fun. Awesome. Well, my last game of the Masters was against Trey down in Texas. Um,
Trey,
yep. And the best part too was Michael finished up doubles pretty
young Trey, right?
fast.
Because there's two Treys.
Yep, yep, young Trey, young Trey.
YT.
And Michael finished up doubles, so he came over and hung out, and Matt was hanging out. So Matt, Trey, and Michael know each other very well, obviously, being in the Texas area. And I've met him a couple of times before, but the best part was it was last game. We were just like, let's just insult each other as much as we can. So it was a lot of fun. Very relaxed game. I will say he caught me off guard. He really did. We played, I think, capture and control. Um, and I deployed on the center line because he's playing the Harad Umbar. So bunch of Corsairs and bunch of Haradrim, and he's playing three Hasharans. So I expected him to deploy back and try to shoot me a bit. So I deployed on the center line with my Emperor and my Phalanx, and he deployed like right up against me with a small drop. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So then I deploy Borgir and his warband to the right side, and he also deploys right up against that with another small drop with his Sharshans. I'm like, okay. So he either is going to lose these guys pretty fast or he's going to deploy right up against me. So I decide because there's this nice little rocky terrain right next to the Emperor. So there's only space for one model to the left of the Emperor. So I drop the Dragon Knight there because I'm like, if he drops, because he still has to drop Dalamir. If he drops Dalamir in front of that, I'll take it as win. Even if I lose the Dragon Knight, Dalamir will be face to face with Dragon Emperor, and I'll get him. And then also I had a sneaky little plan with all the acolytes getting +2 on the jump test. That they can
Ah,
very easily sneak around this terrain piece that looks like the Dragon Knight's all by himself, but they can actually peel off. So he does. He drops Dalamir right in front, and he goes. It was funny because he's like, "I bet you, I see. I caught you off guard." I'm like, "Yes, you did caught me off guard. I did not expect you to try to fight me face to face with my Dragon Elite Phalanx versus your Umbar Pirates. I did not expect that. You're 100% right." So there was a lot of banter. It was fun. I will say I pulled off a couple of like really cool tricks. So the first turn he did not expect this because the Hasharans can't be trapped while standing. So the key is
ooh,
put them on their ass, right? So Borgir, he had all three lined up. I couldn't get all three, but I got two on a tremor, and they only have one will. So I just made sure I got the six on the tremor, and they couldn't resist it. So two Hasharans are on their butt turn one, and then I double charged them with a bunch of guys. So I think I had three on one on their ass and six on the other with their ass. The six on killed that first Hasharan because now he is trapped. He's on the ground, double strike. Killed that one. Turn two, again, tremored the other guy So now all three Hasharans, well, there's only two left, but they're all now on their butts, basically. Um, and the way he tried to charge Dalamir into the Dragonite first turn, I did peel off with an Acolyte, and then he kept like transfixing, throwing smoke bombs. But somehow, I don't understand. This is the only thing that was kind of abnormal. The Dragonite did survive a surprisingly amount of time. So there's that. He kept flubbing. I will say also, Trey had terrible dice rolling the entire game. And he kept saying, like, this was not my worst game so far. Like, apparently the game before was worse. So I can't imagine that because, like, I kept winning move offs. My Dragonite somehow survived, and I just it kind of snowballed on him. The end score ended up being 17-0, so 17-0. So I did get like all the objectives. I killed Dalamir. I killed Delgamar. I think I killed two Hasharans. The third Hasharan was alive, but I just kind of bodied him out from objective. So there was no threat there. But he did have pretty bad rolling. But all in all, actually, it was a fun game just because of the banter and like just Matt was on my side giving shit back. Michael was telling him roll better, and he couldn't. He kept swapping dice and he couldn't just So, but it was a fun game. So that ended my Masters with a fun game. Good note to end Masters on.
Yeah, and you ended up finishing seventh with
I th-
2-1-1.
I think so. Yes, 2-1 and 1/7. Yes, that is correct.
And just above Alisher, Alisher pulled two draws with
Mm.
his Shire,
Yep.
and I'm all the way down there in 18th.
Ah. But
Oh.
like this is the thing. Like everybody, I think knows this about Masters is everybody's good. Like everybody is there for a reason, right? Everybody's a good player. Like I could tell from game one versus Daniel. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be tough. And then round two was versus Jordan, who was in the championship round versus Matt Iverson. So Matt Iverson took it all. He had the host Dragon Emperor, so that was first notch again for Rutabi. Like, oh yeah, he won it all. So congrats to Matt for that. But yeah, it was a
Yeah,
tough Masters. A lot of competition there.
yeah. I was glad to be able to play all these people. It was a both this and the last chance qualifier. It was just great to get a bunch of games in and really,
That's awesome.
a lot of it was Men of the West, but
Yeah,
I was glad to avoid most of the Men of the West in this tournament.
fair
So
enough. Because there was a lot of Men of the West. It was especially I can't remember. I can't remember how many there
seven,
was. Seven.
yeah, seven out of 22 people. So um, like
Yeah,
a,
that's
a
yeah,
third.
33% roughly of the Masters. Of yeah. So moving on into the GT, I took the same list. Your list adapted. We talked about this, but adapted. Now instead of Orphan, it's now for the Last Brother. It's,
Zarumil.
it's time for Rumil to see how it goes. So first game was versus, and if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I'm sorry. It's Arden Mitchell. I pronounced Mitchell right, but the Arden, I think it's Arden. And he was running Men of the West. So
Any
that was
weirdness, or is it the Gwahir, Leggy, Aragorn,
it
Tin
was
Cans?
actually two heroes. It was Aragorn Gandalf
Oh,
on Shadowfax. So, but Aragorn was also mounted. So it's the
no,
two.
No Pippin.
No, he did have Pippin, yes. So
Okay, okay.
So I guess yes, a third hero, but it was Aragorn, Gandalf, Pippin, and then just as many tin cans as he possibly could. And so we vetoed. This was I was talking to him at the end of the game. He made a mistake in the veto selection. He did not veto Stake of Claim versus me,
Boo.
who has got the
Yeah.
drum, the bodies, everything like that. So we rolled and we got Stake of Claim. And because of that, he put Aragorn and Gandalf in the middle, and I took all the other four, and I fought him in the middle and kind of just contained him in the middle. So to be honest, I think by like turn four or turn five, I was up plus 20 on the Stake of Claim. tally. And there was just no shot he had in coming back from that game. But it was fun still to break it down. He popped my Dragonite another notch for Rutabi. Rutabi would have been better in that matchup. She would have. Um, so he popped the Dragonite. He actually, I think he did kill the Dragon Emperor. I can't remember, but it was on the last turn. But again, I was okay with that because I had the stake of claim objectives. I broke him, but he did not break me. So the end score ended up being 17-3, and those 3 points was because he killed the Dragon Emperor. So he did kill the Dragon Emperor, but I was okay with that again because I wasn't broken. I did break him. And my battle line fought really good, but it was a no contest from the beginning, to be honest, because like I said, turn one, I drummed up, had all three objectives, and he tried to march up to the first objective. And then turn two, I still had all three objectives, and I started threatening his back objective. And then after turn two, so turn three on, I controlled all four. And sometimes he would win the
Hmm.
middle objective, sometimes I would still. So I was I think the end score was as the highest. It's the first time I've ever gotten triple a score on stake of claim, but I think I was 38-3 on the stake of
Damn.
claim objective. It was like something ridiculous. So
I'm I'm guessing regular Men of the West build is probably a little bit better for stake of
mm.
claim, but probably not much better. I mean, you've got
I think it.
Guahirs, but and
Yeah,
Leggy might is fine with sitting on an objective and shooting.
yeah, but I think it still boils down to the fact that Men of the West should just veto stake of claim. Like
I
just
agree. I agree.
go. You can fight any of the other ones. You can fight capture and control even if you need to. You can fight domination. You just don't want to fight stake of claim if you're Men of the West, and he should have vetoed that one.
Yeah, you don't want your heroes to be sitting around.
Yeah.
So I played Tommy Gass's Bjornings,
Oh yeah.
which Bjorn, Grimbjorn, a bunch of Bjornings with bow, a bunch of Bjornings, like I want to say two or three of them with bows, and we played Domination,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like a tent, rocky tent village
Hmm.
board, and with I would say that the objectives were pretty evenly spread out, in terms of kind of looked like a little bit of a slanted 5 pip on a die, um, and around the flanks I kind of just sent both my cav and a couple archers to pressure his back objectives and to like just put pressure on him because I outbody him almost 2-1, and those guys did amazing. I think on both fronts, or on one of the fronts, he had 2, 3 Bjornings against kind of 3 or 4 elves, and I kind of played a little coy, moving around and hiding from his bow shots. I want to say he was able to. No, I was able to take that like on the very last turn. While on the left flank, I sent a single Cav model against a single Bjorning, and that Cav just won, knocked him
Hmm.
over,
Wow.
4 strikes, killed a Bjorning, and I was like, oh, well, I guess that's that objective. Um, so I mean, it was a good scenario for me. And in the middle, I think the biggest issue was in order to have the kind of his Bjorning archers be close to the objectives at the beginning, he had his bears maybe 18-20 inches apart.
Mm.
It's like a pretty wide gap in the middle. And so I moved all of my elves kind of right into the middle of that gap, and then jumped on one of the bears, managed to shut it down and kill it. And then by the time the other bear came around, I was then able to jump on that and focus on that,
Mm.
which was kind of perfect. With Rumil, I was able to just toss him on one person, get
Perfect.
that 6. Um, I think I just managed to wear him down on might, and I don't think Tommy's dice were very hot at all. So
Mm.
even having 2 might on those bears, he couldn't win a fight even if I had
Oof.
But I did manage to, this was one where the first bear I jumped on, I threw Celeborn in with Rumil and then struck so that I could get the higher fight and then, or at least tie or higher fight
Nice.
and then kill it. And so
Perfect.
that worked really well.
Which
Um,
bear did you go for?
they're both like the same. I can't even remember at this point. Um,
It's always like a tough for me because Grimbjorn's technically the weaker one, being fight Sweven, but he's also not the leader. So Bjorn
yeah,
is the leader, but fight eight. So it's like it's a little interesting.
I I honestly cannot remember. I ended up killing both the bears in this game,
So it didn't matter.
so it didn't really matter.
Okay,
But yeah, this one ended 18-0, where I
nice,
had most of the objectives with him contesting one of them, and then um, yeah, I it was just my elves were killing his Bjornings, and
nice,
with the bears dying, um, it was a tough one. So
nice.
um, yeah, it was a good game one, solid start.
Very fun. So my game two was versus Mason in Convergence. We vetoed into Convergence, but he was running the Dragons of the North. So he had Big Dragon, Breathe Firefly, a second dragon with Fly, and then a Cave Drake. Um, he
And you played
let's see, yeah,
conversions.
yeah, playing Convergence.
The Drake can't pick up objectives, right? It's only the dragons.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Because it's a beast. Correct.
Yeah.
So I knew the breathe fire thing was going to be a thing. I actually liked that it was convergence to split deployments because it would allow because I knew my Dragon Knight is such a tempting thing to quickly delete. And it would allow Dragon Emperor and Drum and everybody else to get to the middle and pick up as many objectives as possible. I will say I had a big misplay in this one where um, I should have dismounted the Dragon Emperor sooner and gotten the extra bodies. But I was like, well, I'll dismount him once I get there. And he had a sneaky play where he was able to fly back and then shoot back breathe fire, which I wasn't expecting. So he ended up deleting the palanquin with a breathe fire one turn too soon. Then, but I should have dismounted him just turn one. Just dismounted. Just accept. I don't get the banner. Just dismount him now. There's no point in waiting. Just do it. Um, the Dragonite ironically survived almost the whole game. It was kind of like a weird cat and mouse game where he was staying outside. So I actually had all four relics,
Okay.
and I had them in the middle. Um, and he had the dragons and the drake kind of like spread out to the outsides. And I was just waiting for my opportunity for when he moved first and was too close. And then I could run my emperor and everybody towards that dragon. And it finally happened with his leader dragon. He brought it too close. I ran everybody towards him with the emperor, and he lost the move off. So, and then he's like, okay, well, you're not going to be able to trap him. I'm like, actually, I think I can. And he's like, well, you have to pass a bunch of courage tests. I'm like, well, I have Broar gear, so I'm going to put up Fury. So I popped Fury. Everybody auto passed. Everybody trapped the dragon. I struck up. I put a bunch of wounds on that dragon, but I didn't kill it that turn. Um, my dragon emperor was on like two wounds, no fate, or something like that, or one wound, no fate. There was a point where it came down to where I had lost a fight and he didn't kill my dragon emperor, but I was on one wound, no fate left with him. Um, I then trapped his leader dragon again, and I killed him. So
Nice.
I popped his leader dragon. His other dragon crashed in, and his drake started crashing in. And this is where I messed up. I had a big misplay, which cost me the game. Not only the palanquin, but which the extra bodies would have been very helpful. But I could have walled it off, but he had an opportunity to barge with his other dragon and take the objective on the last turn.
Oh.
And so he barged. So the turn before this, he hurled and got the last wound off my Dragon Emperor. So he got
Oh.
that. He got a 5+ or whatever with the hurl. Got him. And then he barged and took the objective with the other guy. So I lost it on the last turn. It ended up being 14-9 because of the convergence. I still had two guys with objectives in the middle, and he had two guys, or the his dragon got two in the middle. Um, so he was able to get that one. But it was very close. I could have won it. Just a couple of misplays with some models to not wall it out.
Nice. That's that's a tough matchup. The
Yeah.
Dragons of the North. The
Yeah.
Breathe Fire, even nerfed, is still pretty dangerous to big
Yes.
heroes or big wounds, big wounded
Yes.
things. So
It was.
did it really make a difference? Was he getting a lot of like Breathe Fires off and um,
No,
doing
no,
some set
like
ablaze?
the breathe fire, the set ablaze didn't really pay off. It did a couple of kills, but it mostly what it did is just made me drop and roll. But the drop and roll didn't matter because I was in the center with the
Yeah.
objective. So like I was okay with that. I was just gonna camp out there. There was a big wood set in the middle too, so I was just gonna camp out everybody in the woods where he couldn't fly into. And I thought I had that. I thought I had it. And like I said, the Dragon Knight actually survived until I finally broke and he ran on the first turn just from
Oh,
break. He didn't die. He just ran. But I, like I said, if I could have played that last couple turns better, to where when I killed the dragon leader, I could have prevented the barge from taking one of my relics. And then I think the way the game ended, I had actually three of the relics. I can't remember now. I'd have to go through the scoring because I think he only had one relic in the center with the one he barged and took, and I had three, but only two within the center, and I just was just barely outside the center with that third one. So I think I could have played it a lot better on the last couple turns, but I didn't.
is that one where it went to time or did it end at a natural?
I
Uh,
believe that one ended on time because
okay.
yeah, neither one of us would have been quartered. Yeah, so that one was time.
My my game two was pretty one-sided. Um, we played Fog of War, and I played against Radagast's Alliance.
Ooh,
So Guahir, Radagast, couple couple Eagles. Um, and this one was like it started out pretty, pretty cagey because I'm not just gonna rush into his Eagle range, and I've got two Sentinels that are shooting arrows at Radagast. Um, which actually managed to pull off a point of fate off the Mr. Radagast, which I think pushed him to commit. So I was kind of just we were playing a Rohan at well, not quite Rohan, but it's a very tall buildinged board, which was pretty nice because when the Eagles like they can't see around like over some of these buildings.
yep,
And so I threw my cav around the side to threaten that they were going after terrain. And so he threw one eagle and I was able to just hide my like one cav and one eagle were just kind of playing cat and mouse around a building, which is a nice trade-off for me,
yes,
especially since that was my decoy night and
yes.
my real objective was the opposite board side of the board. Um, this game kind of ended in a single turn.
Mm,
Unfortunately, I was doing enough shots. I was leaving just enough people in range where he could charge my front line, and he did. But he left a little bit of a gap between Guahir and a building, and so Celeborn channeled, and then my like entire battle line basically squeezed through this gap and then charged the backside of Guahir, and then Celeborn, Rumil, and maybe even my captain as well, all charged in to Guahir, and then struck up.
Mm.
And well, after I transfixed Guahir, and then I struck up and combated, and I either got to fight 8 or fight 9 on Celeborn, but then just absolutely mulched Guahir, and then combated into Radagast
Ah,
and killed both of them on the same turn.
oof.
And that kind of was he had no more might left, and I'm still
Yeah.
sitting on like 3 or 4 between my heroes, and he's just got a couple eagles, and so
Mm.
it felt a bit rough.
But it's the
Yeah,
swinginess you get when you take an all monster list.
yeah. I think the big thing was because he sent an eagle to chase after my knight that was threatening the backside of the board, like threatening my terrain piece. He wasn't able to fully like
Mm.
fill my front line, like block up my front
Yeah.
line so I couldn't squeeze stuff around. Um, and yeah, I was able
Nice.
to take advantage of that. Um, I think the I think he had an option to spend 2 might on the resist against a transfix against Guahir, and I think he felt like it was too much.
Hmm.
But I pulled that off, and he went, "Wow, did not see that coming! Holy
Yeah.
moly, that you live and you learn." And so,
Should have spent the 2 might.
yeah, great opponent just didn't see
Yeah.
that one move, and just happened to be the move that completely ended the game. So,
Nice.
um,
Well played.
yeah, it was a good one. I felt on top of the world after game two. I've got a screenshot of me at first in Adepticon. I think I had
Yes.
like 38 out of 40 victory points scored with no points scored
Nice.
against me. So it was feeling good.
Nice. Yeah, you were
Um,
way up there.
yeah,
You were. Very well played. Two big wins. I'm on a win and a loss. So going into game 3, I was actually versus Baz. And Baz, we know he's played up in the Northwest for a little bit of time now. Actually, this was not my first game. I played him in the Masters too. So I played him before. Very good opponent, very good sport. And we were playing Maelstrom scenarios, and we vetoed into Command the Battlefield. So this was finally like the game that I was like, okay, if there's a chance for me to, because he was playing Dale, like the one win Lance, but as many Dale guys as he possibly could.
like
I was like, if there's a
16
game,
bows, like 50 models, right?
yeah, it was 50 models, like 20 bows. I can't, or 18 bows. I can't remember, but it was a lot of bows. But I was trying to keep it in my pocket. If I have to, I would call a heroic resolve at the end of the game because I have the board wide stand fast, and everybody can see the Emperor on his palanquin. So I was keeping that in my back pocket. But we did the Maelstrom roll, and he comes on first, all pretty much in a group. One warband did not come on. So I come on and I completely envelop his army. He did get so there was a interesting thing because I got my Dragonite inside of 6 inches of his wind lance, but the guy behind him I could not. So misplay by me probably. I shouldn't have put a guy behind him because it gave him a shot. So he targeted the guy behind me with it in the way of the Dragonite. So he hit in the way, hit the Dragonite, knocked him back 3 inches, and then um, there was this funny sequence where he rolled and it would have been a wound, but it was actually, and then he's like, oh, actually, no, that's the knockback first. So it was a 5 or whatever. It was like, no, actually, that's not the wound. That's actually the knockback. He said this. So I'm like, okay. So I knocked him back 3 inches and then he rolled the wound, rolled a 1. So he actually didn't kill my
Ah,
Dragon Knight. Very good sport. But after that, like my army was killing his army where my Dragon Knight and Borgir were, and where my Emperor was doing good. But the whole entire backside just got smoked by his. But the important thing was I got my drummer over onto the farthest corner. He had a couple of guys spread to the outskirts. I had my other two cav spread to the other corners, and I broke him. And this is where he had pretty bad luck is every courage test that didn't matter, he passed, but every courage test that did matter, he failed. So he had two guys in a corner, they both ran. He had a bunch of guys in the middle that didn't really matter because he's trying to quarter himself a little bit. They all passed, and then the three guys out of the on the far side, like two of them ran. So he only had one guy left. So it ended up being a pretty big win for me because a lot of guys ran. And I didn't end up needing my heroic resolve. I kept a point of might on him just in case. Uh, but the final score of that one ended up being 11-4 on Command the Battlefield.
Yeah.
But fun game, fun opponent. Baz is good time, good sport. There was a couple of pretty fun moments that happened. But for the most part, yeah, he just had some pretty bad courage tests in the end of the game.
Oh, that always sucks. Unless you want it. Unless you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh man, I need to fail all these. If I break this turn, I can narrowly scrape it out.
Yeah,
Um,
he had a turn where like if he had the two guys in the forest pass their courage tests, he could have in theory quartered himself. And I was telling him like, but even if you did that, I still have the win. It would have been a minor win, but I still had the win. So, but unfortunately, he had those two guys run, and so then he had to keep fighting it out. But
does
yeah,
Dale have
it
good
was an interesting
courage?
game.
Do
There's
they?
just typical men courage 7+.
Okay. Yeah. I played Sights of Power
Mm,
against Josh and his stock standard Men of the West.
mm,
I don't, although maybe he didn't have any Rohan archers. Maybe it was just all tin cans.
mm,
So this one was this. It started out. I kind of came in on the middle of the board, and Aragorn and Leggy came to my right, and then Gwahir came over on my left, and I had a woods anchoring my left flank and a couple trees around the right, and that's kind of between these this cluster of trees and this actual like area terrain trees is kind of where we fought the whole game. Um, we he came to the right. He came from my right side with Gwahir coming down, and I stayed in the middle. Um, I think this game came down to well, bad luck, but also an unfortunate rules miss. Um, I transfixed, well, Gwahir charged in. I transfixed Gwahir. I throw all my heroes, like my whole backline jumps on Gwahir. I throw my warriors to kind of like screen off Aragorn and his warriors from getting to me. I strike with Celeborn, and I do not strike high enough. And so I get up to fight 7. Gwahir's fight 8. And he rolls a 4 high, but Rumil can't really do anything about that. And so he spent might to a 6. But here's where it got a little sticky is we went, oh right, Gwahir charged, so he knocks over all these models. But he was transfixed. So
oh,
like I mean we did the number of attacks he rolled right. We did, Gwahir didn't strike and hit anyone, but then for the next turn, like all of my hero models and my killy stuff basically didn't get in
mm,
to the fight on the next turn, and he won the move off on the next turn to get Gwahir, out of town, but my models were not able to all get into the fight again, and so Rumil wasn't able to catch up to Gwahir for another turn, and
uh,
that that extra turn I think made all the difference in being able to try to push him off one of the objectives he had.
mm,
Um, and then um, due to a poor measurement on my behalf, he was able to get a warrior of Minas Tirith into. There was an objective on the far side that I had one of my cav models, which Lothlorien cav models can move through woodland
yes, they
terrain.
can.
Yes, and so I was like, "This is perfect," and I thought I had my knight positioned in a way that would prevent his warrior from getting in and contesting the objective. Um, and I mismeasured, and on the last turn, my knight wasn't able to knock him back or win the fight, and so he had 2 objectives to my objective, and then I wounded Guahir later in the game. So it ended up being a 6-4, a
Mm,
6-4 there. So
wow.
um, it was a
Very
tough one.
close.
I mean, I think there's just a couple things that could have slung a different ways. That strike, not
Yeah,
knocking
because
my
it's you
models
just need a
down.
3 plus, and then you have an Elven Blade roll off and a
It,
5
it,
plus, and you're higher.
exactly. And
So that means you
maybe
rolled a 1 or
that's
2.
yeah, I rolled a 1 or 2, and maybe that's where having Haldir and rolling double strikes could really get you the big win. But eh,
Yep,
it happens. Um,
it
so
happens.
it was still a
Well, that
narrow one.
sucks because you had the transfix off too. That's a dead guy here.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it wouldn't even have killed. Like Guahir would still have been alive, but I would have gotten a couple more models into combat, and
Mm,
I think I could have broken him at that
mm,
point, or gotten onto the objective. I was a hair away from contesting. I had like one warrior that was getting swarmed, and he didn't properly trap him on the last turn, and I
yeah.
was just a hair away from backing into the objective to contest him. But that
Mm,
would have that would have stopped 1 point, and
mm.
uh, it wouldn't have changed the game. So
Well,
um,
still a close game,
still a close
minor
one.
loss,
Yeah.
but very close. Well played.
Hmm. Yeah.
So going into round 4,
Yep.
I'm on 2 wins and a loss, and I'm playing Michael, the other Texan, and he was running Assault on Lothlorien, which I have a very, very bad history of Dragon Emperor versus Assault on Lothlorien. Um, uh, in my opinion, it's a great matchup for Dragon Emperor, but I think I've lost every game going into Assault on Lothlorien with the Dragon Emperor, and this is including
Why
last
do why
edition.
do you think that's a good matchup?
Because I'm speedy, so your shooting doesn't really matter. I
Mm.
can cage out the shooting. I have the phalanx, the better fighters, and I'll just go for the break. Um, but I guess it's not true. I did have a couple of wins against it. But anyways, that's usually was my
Yeah.
theory going into. So going into this game, we ended up vetoing into to the death. So definitely kill. It's to the death. I'm going to say this again. It's to the death. Okay, just so nobody forgets what the
Oh yeah, I
scenario is,
remember
because
this.
I
Yeah.
definitely did. Um, this will come up later.
And yeah.
So we're 12-inch deployments. I'm like, that's okay. It's also he plays Dark at Night, but he's got a fair amount of orc bows, but also the goblin bows. But I do what I typically do with a drum is I dodged left, dodged right, and then made him decide what I'm going to do, then dodged right again. And I actually got into combat. I only lost, I think, one guy to shooting before I got into
Oh.
combat. So like I used the terrain pretty well. I minimized his bow shots where I could, and I started getting into combat. And then my guys just started killing, like they do. And I'm like, okay, this scenario is going pretty well for me. It was going pretty well for me. And Trey was a great guy, great opponent. And then I started losing a couple of guys, and I started being like, well, breaking is worth so much. I really don't want to break. I should get some extra bodies to reinforce this flank to make sure extra bodies won't help. And plus, I can go after Musgur with Dragon Emperor. So I dismounted the Dragon Emperor and I ran him towards Musgur, and I had the other 6 guys ready to reinforce the left side. And then a half turn later, I went, "This is to the death," and I just got rid of my banner voluntarily.
Ooh.
Voluntarily just got rid of my banner. The scenario was going well for me, really, really well for me, and I just basically did a 4 VP swing. I gave up my VPs and I gave him the VPs for me not having a banner anymore. And he still had the banner. So I was desperately trying to get to his banner at that point. I was trying to play a comeback. Um, I still broke him. I didn't get to Musgar. I did clean up. I think he actually ended up breaking me too, anyways. So the end score was 11-9. So I still won. But that dismount of the Dragon Emperor, because he got 4 VPs for keeping his banner alive, and I didn't have one, that was basically the difference between a minor and major win because he would be down to 5 and I would be up to like 13 or whatever it was. So that was the
Oh.
difference between a major and minor win was my stupid like I get too addicted to dismounting the Dragon Emperor, and I was kicking myself so hard all night because of that, because it's just a stupid misplay. But I did do that, and it cost me the major win. I was now in a minor win, and I knew that was gonna come up later in the event. So big misplay on my
Ugh,
part, easily avoidable. If I
dang.
didn't do that, it was a major win. But oh well.
That's a tough one. Uh,
Yep. It's
yeah,
my own
I would,
fault. Everybody else, I bet you would be like, "You're gonna do what?" But it's game four of the day, and as soon, like I said, I did it, and then like 2 minutes later, I went, "Oh, you dumbass!" Yeah, yeah, and it just occurred to me what I did. So,
got to remind yourself to read the objective, the scenario every once in a
yep,
while, even if they're
yep,
ones you played 100 times.
a good lesson.
Yeah, I played against Brandon and his Reclamation of Osgiliath, which was Boromir on foot, Faramir, like 11 Rangers. I want to say also 11 Cav, and then a captain and just a bunch of tin cans. And this is the battle I'm going to complain about the table.
Mm,
Um, only like minorly.
okay.
This was just we were playing on a board that was a number of like large rock outcroppings, which were semi sloped, um, and it was just there were basically just like a lot of large avenues and channels to fight in, and there weren't really any tight choke points, so ah, it was more like I wasn't able to really like anywhere I fight I'm probably going to be it's like a net nothing in terms
Mhm.
of like I can't really find a good choke point. Um, and he had 11 bows and I had two, so I figure he's gonna have to I have to go to him. Um, so I deployed pretty much right on the board, like on the halfway line. There was kind of a very central rock, like almost dead center in the middle. I don't know how that would have worked for any mission that has objectives in the middle, but luckily we weren't doing that. Um, and so I deployed with that kind of as my right flank. And my entire thought process was if I run forward, I can kind of pin him between two of these rocks, and his cab is going to have to go the long way around. And to that effect, it worked totally fine. Like for the first 2, 3 turns, like I pushed up and his cav had to take the long way around. And so he didn't really give any cav charges. But boy, oh boy, did it not matter.
Mm,
He, like, Elves of Lothlorien against a front line of like Warriors of Minas Tirith. Boy, I couldn't crack him for anything. +1 to wound with Celeborn, two handing. Um, his dice were on fire and mine were not.
mm,
Faramir especially. Faramir was showing his quality as a hero. He would throw Faramir into a fight, and he'd roll the six and he'd be like, I've got fight six. And I'd be like, ooh, I managed to sneak a pike in. I've got fight six. And then I'd tie the six and he'd win the roll off.
oh, even with the
And
Elven Blade.
yeah, even with the Elven Blade. And like I swear I lost three Elven roll offs with
Oh,
Faramir, and Faramir was just doing his thing, and killing my elves. And I think there was one misplay that I made. I did manage, like Boromir was doing a phenomenal job of killing my guys, and so he managed to kind of push his way through a little bit of my line, which meant I was able to surround him, and I got him once. Like I won a fight against him and did some wounds, which he faded. But the second turn, I was like, you know what? Like, it's the same thing. Like, I should go for an enchanted blades instead of a transfix.
mm.
And then he shielded and had all those dice to get the six. And so I should have transfixed him and stopped him there. But that's totally fine because even though he tabled me on the last turn, he had Rumil, he had Faramir, or he had Faramir and Boromir and a bunch of guys into Rumil, and then Rumil won.
Nice.
And this is my biggest this is my
Parrying
biggest
its way.
disappointment. This is my biggest disappointment in the entire tournament. I had two dice. Both Boromir and Faramir were on one wound. And I was like, you know what? I might be able to kill them both. I need a 5 and I need a 6. And I was like, but I got to go for his leader first. And so I rolled my first die and it was a 5. I was like, I should have thrown it into Faramir.
Yep.
Um, but I did get the 6 on the second die, and so I killed Boromir on the last turn.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and then the next turn, the game, of course, kept going, and he killed me. But it was man, it was just I was expecting that against the battle line, I could shut down Boromir Faramir, and
Yeah.
my +1 to wound would carry me through, but I did not work that way. I mean, we were pretty
Mm.
similar on model count, and his for Gondor turn just really popped off with his +1 to wound, and um, he just bodied, just completely just slaughtered all these poor elves. So
Wow.
yeah, it was actually the first time I've ever been tabled. Um,
Wow.
so yeah,
Yes. Not easy to do.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I lost 20-4. So
Oof. Okay.
but it was a shellacking, but yeah, it happens.
Kind of. Well, I'm just thinking about like yeah, because I love your matchup in that round too. So it's interesting when you see like certain matchups like oh yeah it's Lothlorien versus Osgiliath and you're like oh yeah I kind of see and then you hear the score and you're like really that's wow. It's
Yeah, and I
a
I
little bit of
felt like I
surprise.
was well, like it really sucked because like on the first turn I was like, ooh, if I move like this, I can like a little bit hide from Boromir on the first turn, and I can engage onto Faramir's troops. Maybe I can get an edge there and get some kills on these easy Rangers, and then turn on his tin cans. And his Rangers were like, "We hold Osgiliath,"
Yeah.
and
You
it
don't
didn't
understand.
work
We're
that
the
way.
elite. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, shoot, didn't
Yep.
realize. So, but
That's a bummer.
yeah, great
Well,
opponent.
yes.
So it was a good
Right
game.
on. Well, I also had a great opponent, one you played earlier. It was the Bjornings with Tommy. So,
Tommy Cass.
yep, yep.
I,
Great
I tried to
opponent,
get
very
him to
fun.
coin the phrase "all gas, no brakes," but I don't
Yes.
know if it stuck. So,
That, I mean, it's a very good phrase for Bjornings.
mhm.
We vetoed into Treasure Hoard, and we saw this before. Treasure Hoard with the Easterling drums is very good. Although he has the two speedy bears, but he basically did the same thing you told me about when in your game. Is he had the two bears just they went wide.
Yeah,
And so I took that as my opportunity to blitz Grimbjorn and take one of the treasures back. So I did. Like mopped up a bunch of Bjornings, me being fight 5 as well, my Dragon Knight being fight 6. This was the game that Dragon Knight got his etch, back in over Utabi
yeah.
for me. Dragon Knight fight 6, Emperor fight 7. I struck combat with I got to a point where I was able to strike combat with the Dragon Emperor, Dragon Knight. Got up to fight 10, so went into Grimbjorn and flash killed him because I had the Blade Wrath off on the Dragon Emperor too as
Ooh,
well. So just flash killed Grimbjorn, and then from there it was kind of like a no contest to be honest, because like he had Bjorn all the way to the end, but I think he had one Bjorning at the end of the game. So it was kind of like all my Easterlings were just mopping up. He was killing a fair amount, but it was just not enough. So that one ended up being a big win for me. It ended up being a 15-2 win for me.
that was game 5.
Yep, game 5.
I played another reclamation of Osgiliath in game
Ah,
5. Um, but this one, instead of doing a captain as the third hero, they did Madril,
mm,
which I like. I
yeah.
think I think they're the same cost even, so I think you get
And
an
I think
extra might.
Madrill still has March, so
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
I,
a
probably how I would do it, just to
Yeah.
get that extra might so that you're not using as much of Faramir and Boromir's.
Also the
Um,
reinforcements for Maelstrom and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. We played Seize the Prize, and I played. My strategy was almost identical to the one I used against him in the Masters, in which, but this time I deployed a little bit of a larger force on my left flank, but kind of my center and right, I went up, tried to contest the objective, and then basically played a running retreat to the right. And that was most of this game, is running to the right, and like trying to stay out of his range. Um, but was it turn one or turn two? We we push up. Rumel is on the left flank, kind of facing off against Boromir. I've got Celeborn and my captain in the middle, looking at the middle objective, with some elves off to the right, kind of looking at the right objective. And he didn't. I think Madril, Faramir, and Boromir were in the middle, and I think I gave him the turn in which he could move on and get the objective. Or, oh no, no, this is why he had to call a move. I won priority and he called a move, to claim the objectives with Madril, but he sent Boromir to get the right objective,
Mm,
and instead of sending Faramir to get the center objective, he just sent a ranger.
mm,
And then he kind of barely bodied out. Like, he had the ranger with the objective, and then he had two guys in front of him. And so on my turn, I moved in and set up a heroic combat to kill the guy in the way, and then go into the ranger that had the objective in the middle. And so I snuck that one. And then the whole game was me running away.
mm,
And I didn't manage to get the prizes off. Like, right, but like as the game was ending, he sent his cav right around the backside. And so, like, I had this delicate battle line that was running away. And I think if we played one or two more turns, I think he would have had it. Um, just by Boromir catching up, and by these knights wrapping around the back flank. And the guys that I put on the far left flank were not moving quite fast enough to catch up. So I think if he had another turn or two, I think he completely collapses that and gets um, that. But there were a couple things that were absolutely wild to get to that point. He had this one ranger who was absolutely insane. I would have my Cav model would be handed the prize and would be running away, and there'd be one in the way, and he'd just whip it through the in the way and then kill my rider. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I have a second Cav. This is not a problem. Same thing. In the way, hits him, hits the rider, kills him. I'm
wow.
like, what? How is
Wow.
so he was really delaying me there.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so that was working well in his favor. Um, and I think I got a couple, like the writhing vines was doing big work for me because I was
Yeah.
throwing it and then moving and running away. Um,
Nice.
this was a major, but only very minorly. It was 9-3.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Still a great win. Yeah.
still a good win, but I don't know. It was one of those games where I feel a little bit bad about it, because my whole strategy of like running away
Yeah.
and keeping just
Yeah.
out of range,
But it's
and
a
just like,
scenario.
yeah, I was
It
just trying to
it
stay just ahead of him. So
yeah. It's
um
Adepticon. Everybody expects you to do that. So
I think the one thing that was maybe, he had Boromir with the prize the whole time, which means he couldn't move. Like, I think it's prizes, um, where they can't be moved twice in the same turn, so you can't
yes.
heroic combat with them. And
Yeah.
so, I reminded him a couple times at the beginning, but then he also had the opportunity to like hand it off to a schlep to just like send it towards my board edge.
But he kept it with
Um,
Boromir.
but he kept it with Boromir and like took it into the fight, and I was like, all right.
Very
Um,
thematic. Boromir's not going to give it
so,
up.
and you know what? This gentleman was an absolute. He was an absolute gentleman. At the very end, he saved his fate to save Faramir's life, and then he took a wound on Boromir instead. And so
Uh,
I got like one. I got a point for a leader wound at the very end.
ah,
He was like, you know what? You earned it. And
nice.
so it was very very kind of him. This was a great game and a great opponent. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Sounds good.
That's why I felt so bad about running away.
No,
I
you
was
got to
like,
do it.
please,
Kill
I
him.
just want to
That's,
fight you, sir.
that is so nice
But
of you. Now die. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, all right. So going into last round, I am 4-1.
yep,
And you are, remind me again,
3-2, three and
three
two.
and two, 3-2. So going into the last round, I am matched up against Anakin, and I remember him from Adepticon the year before. I never played him before, but he had Assault on Lothlorien.
A second
Uh,
assault on Lothlorien.
yes. Yes, I had another Assault on Lothlorien. Um, this one we vetoed into Storm the Camp. Um, so my whole game plan for this one was get the Emperor into the camp. I should win. I'll have to do like a little bit of kiting like I did with the shooting. I'll have to kind of like hit his battle line somewhat in the middle, but like strongly swing one arm over the other. That way I can slip the Dragon Emperor into the other side. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't have a lot of shooting. He had some shooting, but he's also just a very skilled player. So he
Yep.
didn't make mistakes. He also kept track. And I don't want to like make excuses, but it's only because of the fact that he kept track of this. And then at the end of the game, he's like, you're not imagining things. I kept track. You won one priority and one move off the entire game. So
That's
and he
brutal.
and I was like, okay, so it was in my head, but I felt like I did pretty good. He demolished me. Let's be honest. He demolished me. I just couldn't like when I engaged the battle line. I felt pretty good. I got a few good kills early on. I had my Emperor. Actually, he was by the time I engaged my Dragon Emperor, he was within because you have to be wholly within the camp. That's going to come up later. But in order to be wholly within the camp, he was probably 2 moves off, probably like 12 inches. He had to go around a building, so it might have been a little bit tighter, might have been a little bit more than that. But if I could just win a priority or a move off, I could have gotten him there. And even if I needed to dismount him, a hero in the camp, Dom 3, like that still would have been enough VPs to win me the game. But I couldn't win a move off, couldn't win a priority. He kept getting the traps, kept getting the outnumbers, and he wiped me. Um, the only thing I will say is the game ended, and I was like, if only it could keep going. But after hindsight, I think it was probably a good thing that it didn't keep going. We went to measure. I got one Easterling into his camp, uncontested. So, got one of there. He had a bunch of guys near my camp, but that's when we went back to read, and it was wholly within.
Ah,
So he only had one guy wholly within my camp. And he had his banner like halfway into my camp and another Warg Marauder halfway into my camp. Um, and yeah, so it ended up being a tie. It was a 7-7 tie. We both captured the camp with one model, we both broke each other. I just broke him. And so it was a 7-7 tie. But I will say that I was extremely fortunate to get that tie, I think, because yeah, I mean, and it's nothing that you can do. Like you lose priority, you lose move off, it happens. It was nothing that he did. He was a skilled opponent. He could have gotten another guy into the camp maybe if he had maximized, if he had dismounted his Warg Marauder, but it ended just right. And Yeah, so it ended up being tie, and I was fortunate to get that tie. I was a little disappointed though because I felt pretty good going into the matchup before, and I was on table 3 going into the last round. So I was thinking, oh, if I get a big win here, I might sneak up there towards the top there. But we tied, and so my final placement was 12th place, I believe.
now
Just checking.
I
12th place.
This game might have been slightly different. I don't know how you read the storm the camp, but there's capturing the camp, which is wholly within, but you also get victory points for having models in your opponent's camp. I don't think that has to be wholly within,
That one,
which
well,
could be just a TO call, but it's um because they talk about wholly within for capturing the camp.
yes.
Um,
So to me, that is to be in the camp. You have to be wholly within to be considered in the camp. But I guess that's a good TO question. We did not ask the TO. We just read it and it says to capture the camp, you have to be wholly within. And then each model within is. So I thought that was like a, if you're capturing the camp, how many guys do you have in the camp you score? To me, that's how it's supposed to be. But that's an interesting question. We did not raise up. So if that was ruled in his favor, he would have easily won.
that's it.
Um,
I'm taking back my 1-0 loss at
yeah.
Storm the Camp. I'm coming for you.
But it was well played by him. He was a great
Yeah.
opponent too. He was a very nice guy. Same with Michael with his Assault on Lothlorien. Usually you meet people who play Assault on Lothlorien and they're just the worst, just the most despicable people you can ever imagine.
Garbage,
But
garbage
these
people.
these two chaps were pretty solid. So very fun. No, yeah, they were great opponents, but I felt like a little disappointing to get that tie in the end.
You still placed well. Like a 7-7 tie isn't terrible, right? You're still scoring some victory points, and it's a high
Yeah.
scoring tie.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. Like you said, I think with your movement advantage, especially in Storm the Camp.
Hmm.
But I guess he's got Warg Marauders and Bat Swarms, right?
Yeah.
That's
So basically my idea was I was planning on breaking him and getting the Dragon Emperor in and then hopefully having everything run and I just couldn't break him fast. Like I broke him on the last
mm,
turn.
yeah.
So he didn't have to take I think he took actually not last turn, it was second last turn. He took one Courage Test, but he had his shaman out there with him to keep the banner and keep his guys in but I just wish yeah, I think it might have turned out a little different if I could have just snuck my Emperor in because that Emperor in is also Dom 3. If I don't
And
get
a
the banner
hero.
in, because the what people don't realize is if I get the Dragon Emperor alone in the camp, that's 13 VPs because it's 15 VPs because that on the Palanquin is Dom 6. So it's worth the 5 models. It's a banner inside the camp. That's 15 VPs just to get the Dragon Emperor in, and I just couldn't do it, and I couldn't even get a dismount to get him in.
I get yeah, that holy within is also kicking you too, right? Because at that point
Yeah.
you basically have to be within 12 of
Yep.
the corner,
Yep.
instead of 18. So
Yep.
yeah, you have to be pretty much in the corner yourself. Tough end.
That's okay. It
Uh,
was still fun. It was a great event, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I always love Adepticon out there.
I played against Nathan Newman's Rise of the Necromancer.
Ooh,
Um, Nathan's a great player. I've played him before down in SoCal. Um, Great scene down
yes.
there. We played Escort the Wounded,
Mm,
and I really think the table here really helped, at least like shape the game. We played on another like Rohan village with a couple longhouses, and in particular on the left flank there was one longhouse like perpendicular to the side of the board, which basically turned like the entire left side of the board, like not left side, but like, the 8 inches, 8, 10 inches of the left of the board into kind of a single channel.
mhm,
And we both moved up. I brought all of mine to the middle, but Nathan moved his Witch King a little bit into that channel, like to go down the channel. And so I hard committed into the middle, and I did something crazy. He had all of his spiders kind of in the front, and they've got intelligence 8, so I pulled them forward with my sentinels, and then I think I got 3 heroes into all 3 of them, and then called a combat with all 3 of my heroes to just basically leap. Like his necromancer was in the very center moving up, and the Witch King was kind of separated to the right, and his other warband with a captain was moving up the left flank.
Hmm.
And so I combated to basically get within charging distance of the necromancer on the next turn.
Mm.
And I think that it didn't I didn't kill the necromancer, but I like from that point on I could get someone into the necromancer uh and stop
Just give it
his yeah.
double spells. That's everything with that list.
Hmm. And on let's see, this one 9-6. What this basically came down to is we both had or he had one objective in my control, like in my camp. He managed to return one of the wounded, and then he managed to get one wounded across the board. And then I managed to get all three of my wounded across the board and contest one of his. And then I got some extra victory points. Let me just check escort the wounded. Um, oh, he didn't have a banner because
Oh,
he's playing
necromancer.
the necromancer. So I had 6, 7, 8, and then I think maybe how did I get 9?
Maybe you
8, we must have both been broken.
okay.
Um, because I don't think I got any of my objectives into his corner. But I got him across the board. Um, and this one felt like a game where I was kind of really flying on the seat of my pants. Um, he got a paralyzing shot with a spider really early on one of my banners,
Mm,
which maybe actually saved my banner's life because my banner was like basically just out of my deployment, paralyzed for the entirety of the game
mm,
until like the last turn. Um, and on the right flank where he had a captain and I just had a couple models, um, I managed to like I just barely managed to stop his models from like overrunning my flank. I had one stupid elf who I think failed 4 terror checks in a row to get
he's
into
not
this
even an
spider.
elf.
My I was like, oh man, at the very end, I was like, I won priority. We're both out of might. I have just barely enough models to get my one guy to run away and then tag his models. And then one of my guys failed terror, and I was like, my whole plan. Um,
Ah,
so it was a really close game. I think it really came down to who won priority on the last turn.
mm,
Um, and who could get into and I,
nice,
I managed to win priority and get a couple models in and just barely tie up and contest. It
nice.
was a really good game.
That's
It
awesome.
was yeah.
So, but
I
finishing 4-2, nice job.
yeah, finishing 4-2. I really think Rise of the Necromancer has some legs.
It does.
Has some legs to it.
It
Just
does.
not just because it's played around here, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's better than I think it's slept on. So
It is very much slept on, and it is absolutely terrifying when you play someone who knows how to pilot it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I think everyone who runs it knows how to pilot it. So you never
Yep.
run into they're always the tough opponent. So
Exactly. That's what's so scary. Yeah. So what did you place? Because you were, I think, 20th.
well, originally I was 19th, and then there was a missed score
Ooh.
of above up above, and
Uh,
I got bumped down to 20th.
But that
So
just shows like this competition. There was 108 players, which we've never seen a tournament that big before. But there was in the top 10, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 5 and ones, and one player was 6-0. So literally the top 10 was all 5 and 1. And one 6-0. So like that just shows the competition. Like I was 4-1 and 1, which is not a terrible score, not what I was going for, but it was 12th place. You were 4-2, which is a great record as well.
yeah,
Down to 20, 19th. But it was it just shows like just how many players it really just skews that.
Yeah,
I
nice.
think everybody knows by now, but Men of the West took one, two, and three. They were they took the whole crown. But they were also like, I know a lot of people are griping about it, and I get it. I think it does need to be toned down, but they were also this close to none of the Men of the West being in podium because because they were all fighting different lists on the last round. So they could have all lost, and then there was no podium for Men of the West, but they did win their last rounds, and they all got one, two, and three, which congrats to those players. Richard got first. He got his Adepticon win. Got a
Woo.
big GT win. I know he's been itching for that for a long time. He's been wanting that for a long time. So good for him. And brought a gold to the Northwest again. So good for him.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a fun event. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a absolute blast. I'm definitely going to be back. I, I mean, I think I went 7-7 over the whole week.
Mm,
So, it was fun going 50-50. Yeah,
yeah,
it's great. I had a
perfect.
lot of fun. I feel like I was just fueled even more by more games. So, it was a lot of games, but it was a lot of fun.
That's fun.
Um, I also got to check out. I think that's where I I think I'm going to get into Star Wars Legion because
Ah,
I went and walked around the tables that they had at Adepticon, and I I thought Middle Earth was decent tables for how many we had. 40K was abysmal, but
yeah.
then I went over and looked at the Star Wars tables, and I was like, all of these are like every single table that, and I don't know how the tables are for actual Legion play, but
Mhm.
I walked through all the 120 tables or third, however many tables they had. They had a bunch of tables, but they were all to the nines, and they all looked phenomenal. So I was
That's awesome.
that might have suckered me into Legion as well.
There you go. Well,
So
I got my second game of Legion in finally. I don't play any other game system, but I got roped into that one a little bit because also I got enamored by the models, so we'll see.
yeah, yeah, and I'm a big fan of Darth Maul, so it
Ah, there you
this
go.
might be my downfall.
Got to do it now.
So hmm
Well, perfect. Well, thanks for doing this episode with me.
That was a lot of fun.
We'll try to do some more going on, but if anybody's still listening, thank you. Appreciate it, and hopefully we keep pushing out more content. All right.
Yeah,
See ya.
for Durin.
Verduran, yes. That we should do that as a sign off.